On my birthday, I stood smiling in my living room, while my husband introduced people I had never seen before and called them family. No screaming, no tears, just silence, because I already knew. And what I had planned was worse. The room smelled like vanilla cake and champagne. Gold balloons floated against the ceiling, spelling out happy birthday, ironic, considering what was about to happen. Friends, relatives, co-workers, everyone was there, including my husband, Marcus. Standing beside me with a nervous smile I hadn't noticed before, he cleared his throat and tapped his glass. "There's something important I want to share today," he said. That's when the front door opened. A woman walked in first, confident, guarded. 2 teenage girls followed her. Then, a young boy, holding her hand tightly. Every conversation in the room died instantly. Marcus swallowed hard. "I want you all to meet my family." The word family hit me like ice water. People looked at me, waiting, watching, expecting me to collapse. But I didn't. I smiled. Inside, my heart wasn't racing. It was calm to calm. Because 30 years of marriage teaches you when a man is lying, and when he's finally tired of hiding. Marcus turned to me, his voice shaking. "I was going to tell you. But the time never felt right. 30 years never felt right." The woman avoided my eyes. The children stared at the floor. The guests whispered. Someone gasped. Someone else laughed nervously, thinking this was a joke. It wasn't. Marcus reached for my hand. I pulled away gently. "I'm glad you finally brought them," I said softly. The room froze. He blinked. You are." I walked toward the table where my birthday gifts were stacked. Picked up a small box, wrapped neatly in silver paper. "Yes," I said, handing it to him. "I have something for you, too." And that's when Marcus realized this wasn't a confession. It was an ending. The room was frozen. Marcus's other family stood behind him, wide-eyed, unsure of what they'd walked into. The guests whispered nervously, shifting from foot to foot. I took a slow breath, keeping my expression calm, but inside, I felt the power shift. Marcus's eyes darted to me. You knew?" He stammered, his voice cracking. I nodded. "Yes, I've known for a long time." Shock rippled through the room. Danielle, the woman who had posed as his secret partner, looked at me, speechless. The kids clutched her hands tightly, glancing between us like they'd just entered the wrong story. "You," Danielle whispered. I let the silence stretch, let Marcus squirm. 30 years of marriage had taught me exactly how to hold a room. You don't scream, you don't cry, you just show up, calm and unshakable. That's the real power. I noticed the trips, I said softly, the late-night calls, the money that didn't add up. I noticed the little lies that seemed harmless at first. And eventually, I found the truth. I gestured to the box I had set on the table earlier. Silver, small, unassuming. Marcus swallowed hard, and the room held its breath. You did what?" he asked. I opened the box slowly. Inside were neatly stacked papers, divorce documents, bank statements, property deeds, everything I had quietly prepared over years, all in my name. My calm hands rested on the edge of the table, letting him see what he had underestimated. "I stayed," I said, "because I needed time. Time to prepare. Time to protect myself. Time to make sure the truth came out on my terms." Marcus collapsed into a chair, his face pale. Danielle's lips parted, but no words came. The children stared at the floor. Guests began to shuffle away quietly. The balloons sagged. The cake sat untouched. The party had died without anyone speaking a word. I stepped closer. "You trusted me to be blind," I said softly. "But I wasn't. That was your biggest mistake." And in that moment, the air changed. I wasn't a victim. I was the one in control. Marcus's secret life, all his careful planning, had ended in silence, and I had written the rules. Marcus's face was pale, his shoulders slumped. He looked around the silent room, seeing the disappointed eyes of our guests, the unspoken judgment in Danielle's stare, and the children who didn't understand why their other life had collapsed in front of them. He opened his mouth to speak, but the words faltered, catching in his throat. I didn't mean for this to happen, he muttered, almost a whisper. I can fix it, I promise. I shook my head slowly, calm and steady. Love doesn't survive betrayal, Marcus, I said softly. It survives honesty. And you chose neither. The weight of those words hit him harder than any scream or accusation could. The room was quiet, not the tense, anticipatory silence from earlier, but a deep, final stillness. The kind that signals an ending. Danielle finally spoke, a gentle whisper to the children. We're going, she said. The children clung to her hands, confused but relieved. There were no harsh words, no anger, no shouting, only the quiet resignation of everyone who had been dragged into a lie. As they left, Marcus sank further into the chair. He had lost control, dignity, and the illusion of his carefully constructed life. And yet, I felt no joy in seeing him broken, only peace. The house felt empty afterward, but in a good way. The echoes of laughter and fake smiles were gone, replaced with calm. I walked through the rooms, touching familiar surfaces, breathing in the quiet, and realizing something important. Freedom doesn't scream. It whispers. Weeks passed. Marcus moved into a small apartment, away from the home we had shared. I redecorated, added sunlight where shadows had lingered, and planted flowers that had been long neglected. The house became a sanctuary again, a place where honesty and calm could thrive. People asked if I regretted staying as long as I did, if I wished I had confronted him sooner. I would smile quietly. No, I said. I needed time to prepare, to protect myself. Silence was my weapon. Calm was my strength. And that was the lesson. Power isn't always loud. Justice doesn't always yell. Sometimes, the quiet choice, the patient, calculated one, wins in the end. In the aftermath, I wasn't just surviving. I was thriving. And for the first time in years, I felt completely free. A year had passed since that fateful birthday. The house was quiet, but it wasn't lonely. It was calm, filled with the kind of peace that only comes when the storm finally passes. I had celebrated my birthday alone this time, with no guests, no cake-cutting pressure, no balloons sagging in disappointment. Instead, I had one candle on a small cake, and I smiled as I lit it, feeling a warmth that had nothing to do with the sun or the fire. I stood by the window, sunlight spilling across the room, illuminating the small plants I had nurtured during the past months. They had grown tall and strong, a quiet reminder that life moves forward, even after betrayal. I thought about Marcus, about Danielle, about the children, about everyone who had been swept into a world of secrets. And I realized letting go had been the hardest, yet most empowering choice I had ever made. I picked up an old wedding photo from the shelf. For a moment, I traced the faces, remembering the years, the lies, the trust that had been broken. Then, I placed it gently in a drawer and closed it. Not with anger, but with finality. That chapter was over. My life, my home, my peace, they belonged to me now. Stepping outside, I breathed in the morning air. The world was waking up, oblivious to my personal battles, and that was perfect. I walked down the quiet street, shoulders back, head high, feeling a confidence I hadn't known in years. Freedom wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic. It was quiet, steady, and unstoppable. And in that quiet, I found the lesson I had been waiting for all along. Sometimes, silence is strength. Patience is power. Walking away isn't losing, it's choosing yourself. I paused on the sidewalk, letting the sun warm my face, feeling completely, unapologetically free. The past didn't define me. The betrayal didn't break me. And in that moment, I smiled for myself, not for anyone else. Not for the world, not for Marcus, just for me. Because life doesn't always hand you justice in loud declarations. Sometimes it hands you freedom in quiet, peaceful moments. And that, I realized, is worth more than any party, any family, any lie ever could be.